Okay, so now they're questioning this Ruby Sprat. So, evidence. What's new? Oh, a confusing development. Like X, question mark, and tick. Okay. So, a new section of the tree. Let's go find this tree. Wait. Oh, I should have put. Yeah, that should have been the feature. Anyways. What is this? Filling in this person is optional? Now's the time to review all possible Roottrees and input your deductions. Will then be able to end the possible 13 Roottrees left to identify. Wait, are you saying 13? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wait, did I? 13. I'm counting this right? So 1, 2, 3. I'm counting where the ones have the white boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, that is 11. Wait a minute. What the? I found 3 out of 12. Revisiting the diary, Clark. So let me... I'm gonna have to skim this again. Gwyn divorced Bill just before she had her second. Not even I can blame her for that. I've seen what he gets up to in Starlet, but neither of us ever took a second husband. Yeah, because his wife's name was Diamond. Literal name for a rock. Starlet. May now be irrelevant. Wait. I did do an update on her. Something about her death? Where was it? Wait. I'm just gonna type it up. Yep. Update on Gwyn Roottrie. She passed peacefully in her sleep while being treated. Scientific case of eunomia. She apparently been in relatively good health, but had eunomia. See, this is quoted, so I feel like this might mean something, like health-wise. Wait, what was? I just need. Hold on. Whoa. I just realized this was all from the first. Anyways. While Bill Williams, an actor known for his role in Fortune Favors the Grave, did not make an appearance at Gwyn Rootree's funeral, because of his absence there were rumors online he must have already passed, but according to a reporter that tracked him down, he's in his 70s, still lives in Paris, and is still in perfectly fine health. He went on record saying, I think it was Mark Twain who said the rumors of my passing have been greatly exaggerated. That seems appropriate today. The few years I spent with Gwyn were just one stop along the very long and complicated journey that has been my life and career. The last time we spoke was when I signed the divorce papers. She asked me to never contact her or the kids again. I've always respected those wishes. They never reached out to me either, even as adults. So I have to assume they had some idea of why she hated me so much and the sacrifices she made on my behalf. I wish them well and am sorry for their loss, but we've all been strangers for 40 years, so I can confidently say that they wouldn't have wanted me to be there. In fact, I'm confident my presence would have ruined it. Okay, so he's still around. And in perfectly fine health. But what has the health got to do with this? I wonder if I can search up if I come on, Robert Roots Tree. What about, wait, can I do Ronald? Let me just go do Ronald, because maybe... Well, what about, like, R and R Productions? None of it seems relevant. County Times. Guys Like Us and Christmas Mission? Guys Like Us is a 1953 comedy film in which two secretaries cut their hair short and pose as businessmen to get ahead in life until one of them falls in love with their client and hilarity ensues. Starring Gwyn Roottrees, Leslie Florence, and Harrison Lane. Should I, like, search up these actors and actresses? Might as well give that a shot. Oh! Ooh! Wait! Can I check? Let me just check. Oh, Western Frontier says no connection to the Roottrees. Harrison Lane seems to be... Oh! Okay, so Harrison Lane's no end. Oh, and the did you know trivia, Harrison Lane married his high school sweetheart after they reunited at a movie premiere. Oh, that's actually sweet! But it's not important. So Guys Like Us, it was fairly popular at the box office and made its budget back on what was seen as somewhat formulaic, so it doesn't really stand the test of time compared to other classic films of the era. It was recently released for the first time on home video due to Roottreemania. The time it took to manufacture and ship VHS copies of Guys Like Us meant that it missed the height of the craze, which only lasted a few weeks. Even so, it did sell modestly well, and there have been talks of a remake. Ooh! Is there a remake if you're saying there is talk of it? So the Guys Like Us remake has been discussed a few times on a website about upcoming films called Move News. The logo is a cowl on a film canister. The rumored cast is Cameron Diaz in the role originated by Gwyn, Linda Fiorentino, and Chris O'Donnell. According to leaked news, the remake has been put on infinite hiatus due to its director, who is speculated to be Ron Roottrees, dropping out in the wake of a serious medical issue. Though that's only a rumor. Wait a minute. So, Ron has a serious medical issue, but... Where was... Yeah, Gwyn was in relatively good health. What was, what about Bill? The husband? Perfectly fine health, and he's in his 70s? Nothing... It doesn't mention him having an illness. Wait. Okay, that's saying something. But I can't jump to conclusions just yet. I feel like I need to dig deeper. So anyways, let me just go back, and I think something did come up for Leslie Florence, so I'm going to type it in. Before Guys Like Us, she was in a few very small supporting roles, and her performance in Guys Like Us was generally thought of as quite good, especially considering she got second billing to Gwyn. Even with the success and acclaim, she retired from Hollywood almost immediately after her co-starring role. Not much was known about her until recently, when Guys Like Us was re-released right at the tail end of Roottreemania. Recently, as part of the myriad of articles and research people have done into those surrounding the Roottrees, it came out that she passed of a genetic... Oh! Here we go. Huntington's is a neurodegenerative disease that most recognizably causes memory issues and uncontrollable movements in the limbs. After symptom onset, somewhere between the age 30 and 50, those affected by Huntington's typically live another 15 to 18 years as their symptoms worsen. There is no cure. Huntington's is passed genetically from parent to... Oh! Oh, straight off the bat, you are not a Roottrees because you had to pull away from a film due to a medical illness. And considering Gwen and Bill are both in perfect health and that only the disease can be transferred to parent to child, I believe your mother is Leslie. Anyways, let's continue onwards. The gene that causes Huntington's works in such a way that if a parent has the disease, there is a 50-50 chance that their child will get it. Huntington's cannot be passed on recessively, meaning it cannot skip a generation. In other words, if someone has a mother or father with Huntington's, but they themselves did not receive it from that parent, their children and their grandchildren and so on will also never have it. Wait. If someone has a mother or father with the disease, but they themselves did not receive it from that so-called parent or child, will also never have it. But it's 50-50. So I feel like he's definitely not a Roottrie. And so that means if he's 50-50, these children will have to be 50-50 as well, or 25. Like, depending how further the link breaks or something. I don't know. Anyways. There's gotta be more clues. Anyways. So, straight off the bat, I already did him as not a Roottrie. I feel like I need to double check. I need to find the other clues. And then I can fully confirm it. But anyways. He did have a gambling problem, right? Wait, I wonder if like, can I search up his wife or something? I mean, I'm just guessing. It would be funny if it's wrong. Oh, there is an update version. So, she was part of a fundraiser comedy club, The Laugh Lounge, about a month ago. The fundraiser was called The Best Medicine and was to help her find a cure for Huntington's disease. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, it's now... See, it now deducts more... Like, it now adds more to my theory. So according to the website, she released a statement. Up until recently, I didn't know anything about Huntington's. In the last few months, I've gone from knowing nothing about it to learning more than any one person should ever have to. Until less than a decade ago, it was impossible to predict if someone susceptible to Huntington's had the disease. But due to the advances in medicine, tests have been developed. Hopefully, this increased awareness and the first step into finding a cure. Please join me for a night of comedy for a good cause. So yeah, that just... I was doing it as a joke, but it now adds more to you swaying as not a Roottrie, even though I was currently looking for Robert. So... Oh, that's even a clue! Okay. How many more clues can I find? Wait! I think I remembered something in the previous game about their R&R Productions? And because I think Sam mentioned about the gambling, and it was on that page, right? R&R Productions seem to have no projects listed in development other than Guys Like Us remake, which which I conveniently happened to look up beforehand when I was just looking at the original Guys Like Us. So there's an older version. Let's see here. Defunct production company responsible for Brother Trouble. You find a comment on an Usenet board stating that Brother Trouble ended up being an ironic name considering the rumors about R&R Productions, Ron and Robbie Roottrie. Should I search up Robbie Roottrie? You know what? I'm just going to be super lazy and just spider search it straight away. There we go. So he was released from French prison after serving a few years for a bad thing. His embezzlement and arrest were partially featured in 6 pieces, as Robbie's participation in the Clans of Trust was a key piece of evidence in Sam's favor, and have since become much more publicity infamous. He has not yet returned to the United States, but when journalists reached out to him recently after the passing of his mother, he had issued a blanket statement a few days ago. The passing of my mother was hard on our family. My brother and I, after spending time together caring for her and mourning, have finally made amends. It was a highly transformative few weeks when it came to our relationship. I'm in recovery for my addiction, and a major aspect for that process is that I wish to stay private. So what about the older version? There's not much relevant information about Robbie Roottrees in a comment thread on a message board about television cliches. You find a thread called "Why Was Brother Trouble Cancelled?" One user speculates, I think it's because the writing went really downhill in season 2. They actually had an episode where Roxy was addicted to sniffing markers. Another person replied, maybe it's due to the rumor about Robbie Roottrees in Silver Screen magazine. There is a link to some kind of article, but it appears to be gone. I'm curious, can I look this up? Oh, and it's not Robbie. Ooh, the arrest and the Roottrees rift. Let's look at this one. So a small rumors article from 92 that claims that self-taught television screenwriter Robbie Roottrees was allegedly tried and convicted under the name Robert in a French court of law. It seems he, again allegedly, embezzled from the company RR Productions to fuel a gambling habit that left him hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. He then fled to Paris where he grew up, and then Silver Screen continues to insist this was all very much allegedly, assaulted an officer who came to question him. Why'd you do that? The article's author says they were unable to get a statement from French authorities but received information from an anonymous source and were able to confirm through public record that there was a trial involving a Robert Roottrees and that's around the time that Brother Trouble was cancelled. What about Business Watch? Oh, this is updated! Because there's no red bar saying that it's old. So Business Watch ran an article about 2 months after the Roottrees rift about what really happened with Roottrees. The article mentions that nobody from Roottrees that they reached out to was willing to go on the record. Instead, the timeline events has been constructed from public record, accidental leaks, and a source on the inside. The only parts that are new to you are also the most vague parts, the ones supposedly confirmed by their anonymous source. The timeline says that the family actually held a preliminary vote after Carl Roottrees passed, but before the release of Six Pieces, and decided they wanted Ron Roottrees to take over. Because of his experience running RR Productions and because he was a well-known and well-respected Roottrees, but Ron seemed way too eager and personally motivated. They were worried he would gut the glance of trust to remove Robbie Roottrees. The family was notoriously unwilling to do anything that could risk their wealth. They stalled, and Ron became frustrated with the delay. When Six Pieces came out, he saw his chance to force action while the family was in the limelight and released the press release himself in an attempt to get the ball rolling faster. This caused chaos within the family. They tried to save face by allowing Ron to take over as co-president with Clark, but according to Business Watch source, Ron was impossible to deal with. He seemed like he was unwilling to protect the clan's trust, and they eventually let him go. After that, the roles passed solely to Clark, who nobody was excited about but seemed like the safest choice. Did I read that before? I don't know. Oh, okay, I need to find one more clue. What haven't I... that's tough now. What have I not... What clue have I not thought that might connect to them? Wait, if this is an update on Wild Bill Williams, should I... Oh, wait, let me... Why? Did I do him in Starlet? Like in the previous? I'm pretty sure I did. So... Let me just see. Okay, so yeah, there's 2 of him. You come across a small mention of Wild Bill. Apparently, a director who considered Wild Bill his friend once hired him to make a small cameo in a war movie called Christmas Mission. Apparently, Wild Bill lived up to his reputation. He showed up drunk 3 days in a row and couldn't remember his lines. He also kept hitting on an actress who was supposed to be doing a very somber, serious role. So he was dropped from the picture. He and the director no longer speak. Okay, well, what about this one? Mentioned many times throughout the magazine's lifespan with stories and gossip about who he had been seen with public. Blondes mostly. Oh, so... Yeah, wait. Yeah, he had a thing for blondes. Was Leslie blonde or something? Because then that would, I mean, like, maybe if I've seen a picture of her, that could sum up my theory. First mentions one of his first roles was under his real name, Walter Forsyth. Second is an interview, although he doesn't mention her by name, you determine from context he's talking about Gwyn. An apology to all the ladies. I'm actually taken earlier this year. I did a friend a favor. He was directing a war movie and asked me to play a small part. When you know that son of a biche cut me from the picture. I'm just ribbing. It wasn't his fault. Apparently the studio didn't want to pay us for a star of my caliber. I got the last laugh though. I met someone. She spent most of the film crying. She was playing a soldier's wife. But even though through the tears, she was incredible. I know I have tend to have a reputation, but this one's true love. I only have eyes for her. Liar. Ironically, the third is a rumor that his divorce from Gwyn was due to multiple affairs, including one with another actress. Bingo! An American reader on vacation in Paris claims to have overheard Wild Bill and Gwyn arguing in public while she was holding a baby and visibly pregnant. Double bingo! What if she wasn't pregnant the second time? What if that was the only time she was pregnant? And I think Sam mentioned that, boldly, that he is a Roottrees. So I would say this one's a guess. Alright. And I found all 12 for both of these Roottrees. I would have never thought of these to be, hold on. Oh, I would have never thought of any scandal in this tree because if you look closely, they both look like the dad. Because, I mean, I can't really tell about slight Gwyn much. But yes, I've covered these two. All this is done. So now let's go back to all of this. Wait a minute. Was that in line new? So hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, so this guy had 6 mistresses. Whoa, I found 4 of all of Frank's? Hold on, I need to read back. Oh yeah, who's Beth? Which means Bess. Cruelty. Yeah, because, Gwyneth's lisp, so Beth means Bess. Frank Wild. Yeah, he grew up as an orphan because his family passed in a hurricane when he was very young. He could barely remember his mother and had no memory of his dad. Oh! So, I mean, he could be the direct son of Elias? Because also at the same time, Bess Williams didn't, it's also obvious she hasn't married someone else to make this less complicated. Because, she passed young. So, he could be an actual relative, but I'm just saying because she didn't marry anyone else, there's no, distinct confusion about him being the other person's, child. It's clearly obvious he has to be the direct child, but the evidence, I'm not confident. And it says he might be a Roottrees, but it's impossible to prove. So maybe I'll just stick with this. The question mark, I love it. Okay, so since I already got all of him, let's see with you. Oh, wait. You're literally 2 clues? What about you? Oh. You have more. But what about you? You're like literally easy, kind of. So Mary Beth Clementine, singer. Yeah, she was known for adoptions. And then I think Regina. Apparently he never knew his father. He thought he might be a Rootree, but he's estranged and didn't want to pursue it because he had no proof. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can look her up here. Oh, there's two? Let's see here. Was reviewed and advertised many times in Modern Music Monthly, but the most popular recording was the release of a cover of He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. It was released under the label New Edison. Modern Music Monthly had a very positive review of her cover, and the writer complimented her voice and the tone of her guitar. The review had nothing to say about Mary Beth herself, so it's not the much use of your investigation. Okay, let's go to the Butler County Times. She came to the Butler County Times a few times and played religious hymns at the Miracle Congregation's church. She mentioned 2 times, though, the first visit was from 49, was significantly more substantial. Miracle Congregation welcomes Mary Beth Clementine with open arms. The article mentions that the church leader was moved when he heard Mary Beth's recording of one of his favorite hymns, His Eye is on the Sparrow, and reached out to her personally. His Eyes on the Sparrow holds a very special meaning to me. As you know, I've had a very difficult upbringing, and it's no secret that my own eyes have always been a source of struggle. The song is about overcoming sadness and hardship through Jesus. If God can find a way to watch over every sparrow, he can certainly watch over those made in his image. My family's fortune does me no good as a man of the Lord. It's much better spent spreading his word, and I felt a kingship with Mary Beth ever since I heard her voice. When I learned her personal story, I knew I had to help her in whatever way I could. The Bible is full of adoptions, from Moses to Esther. Spending your life taking care of those helpless to help themselves is incredibly noble. She and her son are welcome to stay in our son, okay. And it was I think I can understand now. The second visit was a few years later in 53. The article mentions that her first visit was a massive success, and at the instance of Miracle's congregation, she returned for an encore performance. It also mentions that the unusual circumstances of her second son's adoption has prevented her from touring recently, but doesn't clarify. Okay, straight away, because he was the oldest, he's not a Rootree. Straight away. So that means he could be, it might add up. Because he's younger. It's because Basket Baby? Where was it? Prominent supporter of the concept of adoption, and someone decided to test how much. They left a baby on her doorstep. According to the site, she adopted him without question. See, she's made it up because she had an affair with Miracle and decided to cover it up as an adoption. Oh, I feel like there's got to be something else. What am I? Piketty? Oh, wait! Could this... I did not think of this! Fuego's Fiesta, a regional Mexican fast food chain, held a competition in 93 that offered free meals for life to anyone that legally changed their name to Tostarito. Oh, it was a burrito with a cylindrical tostada shell inside the flour tortilla. According to a few different sources, Tostarito Jacobson used to be named Lucinda. The sister to the... shoot, what was it? It was like, yeah, Edith Jacobson. Wait a minute, Miracle Jr.? What? I thought it would be his partner, but his partner was Lennon. Okay. Oh, and that counts as a smoking gun clue? All right. What else? Oh, wait! Should I do the sister? Edith? Because if I'm given Lucinda Jacobson, should I do the sister? The wife to Miracle Jr.? Oh, wait, hold on. I should look more in periodicals. Here we go. There's a Crime Blotter article about Edith Jacobson that also mentions a Helen Roottrees and a Lucinda Jacobson. In 71, when she was 18, Edith and her sister Lucinda were arrested for trespassing at the Miracle Congregation's church in Butler County. They were pretending to be a church employees in an attempt to get into the room where the church houses their weekly tithings. The church didn't press charges. They were caught by Helen Roottrees, who was there at the time while her husband Miracle was away preaching. Helen Roottrees was quoted as saying, "Jesus forgives, and so do we. The Lord works in mysterious ways, and I am confident he has brought these young women to us for a greater purpose." And that's all the clues. But I feel like it does add up. Something clearly gave it away with with the first visit. So I would say this one's a definite yes. So, you're done, you're done, you're done, they're done. Now, this. So let's see here. You have 15? I'll come back to you later. Okay, let's see here. Oh, you both? Okay, these two, they need one more clue. So let me see. So I got 6 pieces of staff signatures, the Wreckers, Steve Garland. I did do a book on it, right? Does the book? Kitchen Tales. Garnishing the Truth. I think the books don't count. Well, what if... Hold on. I'm backtracking. What if... Kitchen Tales? What if I spider search that? Ooh! I printed something. Kitchen Tales was a story-based recipe book credited to Mark Zimmer that had some success after it was featured on a morning talk show. The book released before the internet was widespread, so mentions are rare. One book collector states that the publishers were unprepared for the demand and that there were no second printing, so it's unusual to find a copy in the wild. You find an alternative medicine website which focuses on cooking with natural ingredients. It mentions that one of the Kitchen Tales recipes used salt water. The owner of the site has included a scan of that recipe, which was added to your evidence. She says if you switch out the salt water in the recipe for a mix of 2/3 spring water and 1/3 filtered seawater, it tastes great. Okay, let's go back to evidence, where... Here. The Plated Loaf. So Kitchen Tales is a book and stories of mild popularity but seem to disappear from online marketplaces in 92. You find a scan of one story on a website. It demonstrates how to bake the plated loaf. For years, two bakers, Flora and Yates, flirted. They grew their friendship, compared recipes, and combined knowledge. She loved his salt and pepper beard. He adored her rosemary cheeks. They fought sweetly about one another, but he was one day whisked away, conscripted to bake the army's bread. By the oil of the lamp, Flora's tears began to salt her bread. The recipe asks the reader to combine flour, yeast, sugar, olive oil, and rosemary. Combine the salt and water together and add to the mixture and whisk until the dough begins to form. It was 10 to 12 years later that they met again, seemingly by fate. Flora's unique dough had earned her a position as the king's personal baker. Something's going on with the music. What's going on? I don't know what's going on with the music. but I tried to quiet it down a bit. So he begged for kingdom's 45 diplomats. One day they returned from the Dutch Isles with a gift. Upon seeing Yates, Flora was both delighted and distraught. She felt as if she was torn in two. She had not been made aware of the gift and had already prepared buns for the palace ovens. She wished to greet Yates warmly, but was struck by fears that he'd be unable to bake with her, that she'd face retribution for being unprepared. She cried to Yates, adding more salt to her dough. Cut the dough into two equal pieces and lightly sprinkle salt across the top of only one of them. Yates eased her pain. He insisted that she had no obligation to prepare for a return she thought impossible, but he shared her fear of retribution. He knew if they did not solve her predicament, they'd miss their final chance to bake together. In the end, instead of wallowing in the present, they worked together to shape the future. They twisted and entwined their doughs and baked them as one. Thus was born the plated loaf. Word quickly spread of this new delight. The king's decree on the royal parchment was that it would be considered a delicacy. Roll and twist the pieces to intertwine them, then twist and wrap around the inside of the Dutch oven atop parchment from outside inward to make a spiral. Bankrolled by the king, Flora and Yates spent their days baking together. They traveled for 45 years and then settled down for 15 more. Their souls were golden with no regrets. Lastly, bake for 45 minutes, remove lid, and observe until crust is golden brown, and which will take up to 50 minutes. So 45 years, then down for 15 more. So wait. I'm turning the music off. It's just being too annoying at this point. So there was something I need to go to, where was it? The public library, garnishing the truth. Wasn't there also a mention about the 3-year age gap? So looking at their faces, and then let's look at guys. This, this, and she, I need to look back at the company records. Butterscotch, caviar, strawberry, whatever this one is. Sugar plum, strawberry. Wait. Wasn't there like some mention about his inspiration was Elias and the 5 pieces flavor? So what if if that was code for all of his mistresses? I think that could be it because there was no J flavored. So I think straight away this could be a possible no, but I will look back on him and just double check to make sure it's all correct. But I believe this one, he's the oldest by 3, so this is a possibility, yes. And then this will be a definite no. All right, let's look at you. So I need 2 more clues from you. What could they be? Well, maybe like, should I remove like textile and see if a lang tie comes up? 2 results, the Han family. Newspaper chronicles that Jerry Han has traveled from China to open the company, which is connected to a much larger company overseas called Langtai that has connections to Roottrees. It's not a factory, it simply imports and distributes Langtai's products. It also mentions that Jerry is the son-in-law of the current leader. As someone close to the family who learned English in school, he naturally raised through the ranks as they expanded their reach to America. Although Jerry's wife Linda doesn't speak English at all, she is currently taking classes and is teaching her at home. He says he has always been a she has always been a fast learner and hopes that she'll at least be conversational by the time she gives birth. Oh, by the time she gives birth. Did I write this down? I I did? Wait, Lang Xinyao, that is. Oh no, you're Xingyu. Okay. First trip wasn't covered by the newspaper. What about this? Earliest mentions from 79 October stands out as very unusual because it doesn't involve the business. The article details a new medical industry. Virtual fertilization was brand new, barely a year old after the first success IVF birth in 78. It seemed the industry began to grow in a featured article about different companies all over the world, and the cost that they could charge for their service was in Business Watch. This included a few cases of high profile customers willing to pay a premium. Apparently, at the time, the CEO was Lang Hongbo and his young daughter Lang Xinyao, and her husband could not have children, so in an attempt to create a suitable heir, he paid Giginus to have their child implanted in his older daughter, who was unmarried. The cost for this was apparently just over 1,000. Wait. What's this? Medical company with operations in the US and China. International news after a whistleblower came forward. Apparently, their services were in some case falsified. When they did often perform IVF, the whistleblower proved that a few of their customers paid for a very different service and alibi. The company would claim they perform on someone who was already pregnant to cover a story for high profile families who did not want to give up the child but did not want the shame of an unmarried mother. The whistleblower claimed that they had helped to do this at least 6 times, but only provided proof of one case, the daughter of an American politician who is unrelated to your investigation. It was shut down after both founders have reportedly fled to Lebanon, where there is no extradition to either China or the US. And that's a smoking gun clue. So it's hinting that she was the oldest, and she was performed on IVF. Wait, what if I need to look more here? News time. There's got to be something here. That was in the news when a whistleblower came forward to say that they would often claim to reform IVF, but were just accepting bribes to forge paperwork. Newstime did have a few articles about it during the height of the scandal. They produced a hypothetical timeline of how a client would use the company. Generally, celebrities or other powerful people who found out they were unexpectedly pregnant would declare that they were going to use the service as soon as possible. During the final week of pregnancy, the client would travel to a gigness facility in either China or the United States. Usually it was the opposite of their home country so that they could maintain a lower profile. They would then give birth and be photographed with their newborns. During their recovery, they would then stay on the premise for a few weeks to a month. This was equivalent to an extremely high class spa. After these few weeks, the photos would be released and the birth would be announced as if it just happened. This extra time out of the spotlight would allow the birth to appear to be over 9 months after the announcement that the celebrity was going to use the service. Business Watch. You already read about the head of Lang Tai, but then again later in 94, there's a long article that spells out a huge controversy. It seems that a whistleblower came forward to the US government about it, which was said to have been founded in China by a partnership involving American and Chinese medical specialists who then built their medical facilities in the United States. The article mentions the whistleblower's claim. Gigness will sometimes claim that they perform IVF when they did not. This would often be used as an excuse for an otherwise unexplainable pregnancy. They fly their clients to America where they would stay for an extended period of time, then return to China with news of a successful IVF pregnancy. The whistleblower apparently presented the Department of Health and Human Services with credible evidence. At the time of the article, it was still an ongoing investigation, but Business Watch speculated after copies of the proof would leak to various media sources that they couldn't imagine a world in which the company would be allowed to continue operations without facing serious legal or financial consequences. Okay. Oh, and that's it. So the IVF to me kind of sounds like a potential cover-up. So, well, even if the IVF is still a potential cover-up, I'll put her as a maybe. You know what? I'm just going to risk it and make her a yes. If I am wrong, then so be it. So, let's now go back to this guy. So, let's see. We need to find one more clue with you. So, there's this, Sonia. It's got to be something else. Her company owns television networks, advertisements. Or what if I don't need to do her full name? What if I need to do just Nia? Give me something with just Nia. Oh, Business Watch! So Nia Alves owns many forms of media in Brazil under the umbrella of this, which I looked up. Business Watch has mentioned her by name a few times. The most relevant appearance seems to be an article about the struggles of American media companies to do business with their foreign counterparts due to the difference in laws. A few media groups in East and countries are discussed, including those in Africa and the Middle East. The Transmissapelo in Brazil is also discussed. Due to lack of freedom of speech laws in Brazil, there has been added bureaucracy in publishing certain stories on the channels. Nia is extremely private about her identity and supposedly once used her connections to have a reporter fired from a rival network and blacklisted. The journalist claimed that this was to shut down a story he was doing about her personal life, including that her marriage in 1973 was not of her own choice. His research claimed that she essentially had her husband forced upon her as a child bride at the age of 15. Child brides were not outlawed in Brazil until 1990. It also claims that past appearances with her husband has been for show. They do not live together and that she resents her own parents for the arrangement. The final claim is that she must have made her money under the table through nefarious and possible illegal means during Brazil's dictatorship. As his research uncovered that she could not possibly have earned enough to start a media company otherwise, after making a statement, the reporter went into hiding in fear of his safety. Oh, wait. Where was the picture? Photos. This one. So this is probably the forced marriage, and she's mostly looking at him. Like, she's not even lovey-dovey looking at him. So this might be a definite yes. So let's go to the board, and I'll probably say yes. I mean, I can kind of see a bit of guy. Can't really see much in this guy. She is kind of lovey-dovey with him. Now, let's see about you. Wait, I found all the... I need to double check. Where was the smoking gun? Oh, wait. Because I think I meant a while ago, I have a dirt memory. I probably went on the theory that guy would do the candy code as like for his mistresses, and because this is more than all the other ones, what if that means it's for per child? So what if that's a yes and that's yes, because they're both twins, so they got to be both a yes. And so far that concludes. I immediately went no straight away because of the because with all the supposed flavor codes, there wasn't a J, but I need to dig more into let's maybe dig more into Anonymous. Piketty is not afraid to expose details that other publications would avoid. Shortly after the announcement that Jane Doe Roottrees was not a Roottrees, Piketty exposed personal details about the story of Anonymum under the headline Anonymum, the Anonicon. They said Anonymum worked as a manager at a department store in North Carolina and her daughter's name was Courtney May. They also said that the woman that vouched for her famous cover story, they didn't identify news time, perhaps to avoid being sued, is named Corinne S., and that she had filed for bankruptcy. The article speculates that Anonymum and Corinne were in on it together and even speculates that they might have even been lovers. Ooh. Piketty is not a credible publication. Their information wasn't particularly actionable. Very few people seem to notice. Okay, so who is Courtney May? Courtney May. Courtney May. Courtney May. Who are you, Courtney May? Still nothing. There we go. I just had to redo it. Also, two things have printed. So Courtney May has a simple website with a black text on a white background and a few images. From the viewer counter, you can tell you're the only of a few hundred people who have visited it. She's not shy about claiming she is Jane Doe Roottrees. As proof, she has posted an unobscured cover from the time she was featured on News Time, as well as a different picture of herself that appears to be a wedding photo. The website seems to be created in defense of her mother, who has been the target of public scrutiny. Under the headline, The True Story of Jane Doe Roottrees, courtesy of Courtney May Newton, formerly Watts, Courtney May writes, everyone has everything wrong. My mom approached the Roottrees before 5Ps was ever on the cover of News Time. Nobody at the Roottrees company took us seriously. They only listened to us after we appeared on TV and in magazines. The site has a scanned letter from the Ruby Legal Group to Courtney May's mother, Beatrice. In a very polite legal terms, it seems to accuse her of exploiting their name and orders her to leave the Roottrees alone. It's dated from a few weeks before the 5Ps article appeared in News Time, and it seems legitimate. Courtney May also discusses her mother's magazine feature in more detail. Do you know how difficult it was to convince anyone to tell our story? My mom didn't want to show her face because everyone in the media we approached assumed she was lying. Because her story was just like 5Ps, but my mom's story was first. Mum was advised by Ryan and Cork to tell News Time that seeing 5Ps on the cover was what inspired her to go public. That's the only way News Time would agree to it and help her get on, but it's not true. Our story was first. Oh, so if it's true, let's see. Ryan and Cork is an unremarkable law firm based in North Carolina, named after its senior partners, Ryan Gregory. Their firm mostly handles local cases and recently represented Nana Mom. Their website has a section about the case, including a scan of the DNA test results that prove Jane Doe Roottrees was not a Roottrees. What about Winston? What about these guys? Okay, nothing. So let's go to evidence. Oh, just married. So take photos. Danny Newton or something. What about... So this must be Beatrice, probably. That's the other photo. Original unobscured cover photo from the News Time feature on Jane Jones Roottrees and an anonymous mother. You found it on yeah. Let me close this up. So this goes here. So we do you here. We do Beatrice. What? And then you were... What was it? Okay. Danny Newton. That's the partner. Hold on. So Danny or Daniel Newton. And then we'll do a photo of you here. We'll do this here, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do like Courtney May Watts. But I don't know their occupation. This is a DNA test you got from the website from Ryan and Cork. Okay, so the test says that there was virtually no chance that Anonymous daughter Courtney May was a Roottrees. It lists that DNA from Jane Doe was tested against the DNA of Bonnie Kellogg-Nee Hudson, Guy's twin sister. Ryan Cork, who were representing Anonymous, have confirmed that the sample they sent to the Roottrees was definitely Courtney May's hair. The test is from a company called DNA Teco, and a doctor has circled the results inside the paper. Oh, DNA Teco. Let me read this. So 0.5% match, not related. Okay. Let's try this. I just got an achievement too for that. Sweet. So DNA testing is a relatively new phenomenon that allows scientific laboratories to prove a possible family relationship between two people. It's fairly cutting edge. The method by which they test samples has only become standard in the last decade as of the early 1990s. According to their site, DNA Techer was responsible for the DNA test that proved Felix Fellows was a root tree and even uses it as an example of how a DNA test looks. They use it to provide some information about their process. Whenever they take a sample in person, they put the name of the person on the test according to their legal ID, which is why it says David instead of Felix. Because Guy Hudson has passed, there is no known DNA source for Guy. They tested Felix hair versus a hair sample sent from the Roottrees. It's listed as Jane Doe because it wasn't collected in person, but the Rootree company let them know it was from a Bonnie Keller, Guy Hudson's sister. This is why it is a paternal aunt test. The left and right sets of numbers are essentially signatures that perfectly match the DNA of the two people in question and nobody else. The way the test works is that if certain parts of the signature are shared, then it's very likely two people are related. As far as you can tell, DNA Techo is a legitimate company. They don't seem to have any reason to create fake results or hide the truth. Let's see about that. Oh, this is an example. But this one is 99. Ruby, unsatisfied by simply earning her place at Mideastern with a full scholarship, went on to earn a captive audience of her peers with a perfect GPA. It felt like the ideal occasion for the celebration of an undoubtedly incredible individual. However, by the end of her speech, there were many in the audience that wished that neither of those events had transpired. It was a passionate attempt to use her soapbox to proselytize her fellow students and their parents into the religion of poverty, but unfortunately, judging by the silence, they remain incompetent. This one? I'm just gonna highlight and nothing. But does that even like lead to him? Somehow I found like 3 more like smoking guns. How is that possible? Let me go back. It must be something else. The Fountain of Youth, also known as the Foster Fountain, is a fountain found in a small park in Portland. All proceeds from change thrown into the mountain are donated to the foster care system. A website for Portland's parks and recreation mentions under a trivia section that the Fountain of Youth was originally conceived by Ruby Spratt, an alumni of the foster care system. As more businesses signed on as sponsors, it grew in scope, even beyond Spratt's original hopes. The fountain is unique because it has special targets that visitors can aim their coins towards. If a coin lands on one of these targets, each of the sponsor businesses matches it. That this isn't a huge amount of money from each business, but more 100 businesses have agreed to participate, so each penny becomes $1. That does not help. Still leads me back here. Stick up high above the water, people are expected to toss coins to the mountain for good luck and be encouraged to aim for the top of the pedestals. All the coins scraped from the bottom are slated to be donated to the foster care system, a coalition for local businesses that sponsor the fountain. You know, backtrack. I noticed in the photo she looks like some sort of doctor in this photo. So what if she is like, where? Could she be a doctor? Or could it be like maybe nurse? Maybe nurse. I'll guess with nurse. Let's fingers crossed to see if that is right. Anyways, let's go back to you. What else can I find on you? I believe he fabricated the story. Like he teamed up with someone and they fabricated Beatrice's story. So, a letter to the editor also claims that it's not possible that he was born in 77, as he claimed on the song called 17 Magazine that he turned 17 in 92. The editor responds with a statement that they've reached out to his agent and asked about the song and were told it wasn't performed by 5Ps and that they shouldn't print rumors. 17 Magazine. Sometimes referred to as 70 Magazine is the title of an unreleased and controversial song by Dirty Davy. There's mentions of it on a few sites claiming that it was on the first release of his first mixtape but was removed. There's no audio or visual evidence of it existing, but there are independent accounts on people who have claimed to have heard it, and they do generally line up. According to their recollection, it was about many different loosely connected occurrences of the number 17, mostly violent. The intro states that it was written on Davy's 17th birthday and involved a fictional but glorified series of eliminations at a fashion show for a teenage magazine with a similar name to the song title. The person doing the violence was apparently trying to beat Dahmer's high score, Jeffrey Dahmer, but pleaded guilty to eliminating 16 people in 92. Due to major acts of gun violence in schools earlier this year and the subsequent backlash against violent music and video games, it is generally considered to be in very poor taste to bring it up. Most of the people that enjoy mentioning it online are either trolls trying to shock people, come from morbidly curious corners of the internet. Should I? Nothing on periodicals. And there's like 2 more clues. What am I missing? Ran an article about 2 months after the Roottrees rift about what really happened with Roottrees. The article mentions that nobody from Roottrees that they reached out to was willing to go on the record. Instead, the timeline events has been constructed from public record, additional leaks, and a source on the inside. The only parts that are new to you are also the most vague parts, the ones supposedly confirmed by their anonymous source. The timeline says that the family actually held a preliminary vote after the passing 6 pages. Yeah, I've read this. Yeah, I've already read this. Dirty Devil was 5-piece first mixtapes released as Dirty David from the early 90s. There's discrepancies and debates about what year exactly it was released on the pop culture reference, with the range thought to be somewhere between 92 and 94. One of the songs, Yes I Could Jump, seems to be at the center of the confusion. Some fan sites claim that there are multiple versions with different track lists and song lengths on them, though because there's very little evidence of the mixtape online as it is, it's even harder to verify that information. Sorry, I needed to stretch. I wonder if this is like another song I can unlock. Oh! I just unlocked all the smoking guns. Yes, I Can Jump is a song that was on the mixtape. It seems to be the only song that didn't make it onto his studio album that people thought should have. In it, he references a popular movie called White Man Can't Jump. This reference has caused some confusion amongst the fan base because of it. It is agreed upon the mixtape had to come out in 92 at the earliest, but others point out that Fellows references seeing the movie on his 17th birthday. This would have been in 94. Some take this to mean that the album had to been released in 94 at the earliest. Others claim he was likely just trying to make himself sound older, since in response to some of the more questionable lyrics, he has stated multiple times he was just a dumb kid when it was released. All right. So, obviously that would be like a definite no. So, you know what? I'll make her a yes. And, oh, these last 2 are optional. You can summon Sam and Clark whenever you wish. However, this will end your search and reveal the truth, so make sure you're ready. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's see. Final options. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 I did it! I completed the family tree! Let's see if I'm right or wrong on some things. I should have double checked before I confirmed. But you know what? Screw it. Booyah!
Beatrice and Courtney May. Clark, can you swing another test against Bonnie's DNA?
This time I'll be sure to have them verify both samples in person.
1 week later. Okay. Oh, where's Clark?
Using the family tree you filled out, as well as DNA tests, we were able to uncover the truth behind all the inconsistencies.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna let you dabble your truth. Like how your theorization, your confirmation, I mean.
Clark's handling the business, but I've come to thank you and fill you in on everything we've learned. Buckle up, because it's been one heck of a week.
Let's go!
Actually, that's an understatement. It's not every week you discover your family company is being sabotaged by someone they trusted. But that's the kind of time we've been having. Like I said, buckle up. Maybe grab some popcorn. We'll start with Guy Hudson.
Yeah, because his one is the messiest. And, like, my brain is probably fried with trying to figure out all his, scandalous affairs.
Guy had a frankly ridiculous number of potential children. What shocked me is how many graduated from potential to confirmed. We can even prove he was aware of them. The smoking gun was how he used company money to pay off a lot of women. He hid it with a method inspired by his idol, Elias. 5-piece flavors. The flavors he was paying to research were a ruse.
Oh, I did mention this because I think this was in the back of my mind because, like, Guy knew that part of Elias's legacy was the 5-piece flavors. So that's what Guy tried to do too. Oh my goodness. And because it was, and the supposed flavors, the first letter had to be of all the names of the mistresses, right? Because I didn't see a J flavor, right? Are you gonna confirm it?
He developed flavors based on the initials of the women he was paying. Which was really stupid, considering one of their names started with X.
Yeah, this one was stupid. But, yeah, I knew there wasn't a J. Oh. Well, okay. I think I did eventually. I mean, I was unsure. I said yes, but I was also unsure. And then I think I changed the daughter to a yes before I confirmed. Or I hope I did. I don't remember.
Let's start with Christine. Guy was paying her under the name Caviar, but there were some other clues. James was born 9 months after Zach's party.
Elizabeth's daughter at one of Guy's parties, her daughter showed up with Guy and didn't seem comfortable with switching partners. 97, they held a retirement party in November, and in September 78 for the last month so that he can keep an eye on his side. I still don't get it. My brain is just fried.
Christine was there with Guy, and when she got pregnant, she panicked. Steve stepped up. He even turned it into one of his recipe stories.
Oh, wait! She and her husband Steve met years ago. Although they grew apart, they reconnected by chance. Probably at Guy's party. And she was pregnant with Guy's child. But Steve being such a sweetheart. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. You continue.
Not all of Guy's affairs led to offspring. He may have slept with Robin Martin, but she didn't have children, so we'll never know.
Oh yeah, because she had a medical procedure so she would never have children. So I don't know why I did that sound effect, but I'm trying to sound effect that she snipped off her reproduction business line. It was so weird.
Also, not every child of Guy's affair partners were his. Robert Garland was born after his parents had already moved to Boston.
Yeah, see, we moved before I could talk, and Robert is 3 years younger. So yeah, during that time, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so during that time, I think I said, like, anyways, let's continue. So he was a yes and he was a no. Well, yeah, because there's a 3-year age gap, so anything could happen.
Skipping Beatrice for now. Up next is Leng Xin Yu. When Guy showed up in China, she was into America. And Americans. Dare I say redheads, even?
Oh, I didn't think about Robert Redford or Butch Cassidy as a redhead. I didn't really think of, about the obsession with redheads. But then again, backtrack. Gwyn's partner had this obsession with blondes.
When she got pregnant, her father paid key genes to fake IVF. They claimed her sister was unable to conceive.
Oh, when they did not often be used as an excuse for otherwise unexplainable pregnancy. Ah. and his younger daughter and her husband could not have children, so in an attempt to create a suitable heir, he paid Gignus to have their child implanted in his older daughter, even though she was already pregnant.
But her sister and Jerry had their own son, Mark.
Wait, did I read this? I don't know if I did. When we had Mark, we had never even considered giving him a traditional name. Also, she was a definite yes. I don't know. Did I change it to a yes, or did I still leave her as unsure? But anyways, moving on.
Sonia Alves was soon after. Nia was married at a very young age to a much older husband.
Yeah, child bride at 15. My goodness. But it says they do not live together.
She resented him. I don't blame her. They allegedly spent no time together in private.
Yeah, after doing some translating, the page about Nia lists her as unmarried. It does not go into any other relationship history.
Guy was in Brazil during Christmas 1979. It's the only Christmas not in the records.
What do you mean only Christmas not in records? Were there many other Christmases?
Flavio was born 9 months later, and like the others, Guy started paying Sonia.
Okay, so he is a yes. Let's continue.
Last was Susan Ford, hired to translate for Guy's overseas trips. It's easy to read into Guy's donation to her school, but there's no definitive proof there.
I knew Susie had to be like Susan or something.
She and Guy were witnessed together near the end of his life. Susan's husband was convinced he couldn't be the father of her daughters. Guy, though, paid double. The price of twins.
See, I had a funny suspicion when I realized why this was more than all the others, and I thought, what if it is the price of per child? So I feel like I put them both as yes, so they both got to be yeses. And yeah, Mr. Hughes was convinced that he was not the father of Mrs. Hughes' current pregnancy. They're both yeses. Well, because they're twins.
So, what about 5 Ps? Felix Fellow's mother, Joanna, doesn't have a 5 pieces flavor. On top of that, his story doesn't really add up.
Yeah, I just immediately noped on the whole, there was no J flavor 5 piece, and I immediately put him down as no, but then I tried to look up all the smoking guns, and I think his story was so messy. And Courtney claimed that, and because of the whole claim, like the Beatrice story saying that it was identical to 5P's, and then Courtney claiming that their story was first, it makes me think that he ganged with someone and they literally fabricated or copy paste their story, claiming it was their own story. Anyways, can you summarize his messy story for me, please?
His mother already left the company by the time Guy became president, and his lyrics indicate he was born sometime around 1975.
Yeah, she left in 1977, but Davey said he was like 17 years old in 92. Oh yeah, and she left before Guy became the president.
Alone, that wouldn't necessarily prove it. But there are some suspicious connections between Felix and the company's current lawyer, Ruby Spratt.
Oh yeah, you were getting suspicious about Ruby Spratt. I think you mentioned earlier.
They both grew up in Portland, in foster care, and according to the local paper, they definitely knew one another.
Most of them grew up together as close friends. Ah, I was kind of skimming that. Yeah, but she did grow up in foster care, and I think, David was mentioned that he was in foster care as well.
Ruby was the one who approached the Roottrees to begin with. It was all a setup. Ruby and Felix saw my book's challenge to the Clancet Trust as an opportunity.
Yeah, they want the money. They are greedy buggers.
His mother really had worked for Roottree, and Ruby was a respected lawyer. She exploited my family's greed, worked her way into control of the trust, and ensured Felix got a piece. But they made some mistakes along the way. If you look at the 2 DNA tests that Ruby handled, they were both supposedly tested against Bonnie Hudson.
Oh, I think I got this, but I skimmed this because it was it was bolded, so I couldn't really read that properly.
But the 2 signatures that should both represent Bonnie don't match. After Clark and I confronted her, Ruby lawyered up. Ironic, I know. We suspect Ruby had Donatico test Felix against his own mother's DNA. He had a hairbrush of hers. They sent the female sample in remotely.
So, yeah, because the only thing he had to remember his mother was the hairbrush she had always used.
On the second test, Bonnie's sample was tested locally, but Courtney May's was not. Ruby's been throwing away samples. We think she sent her own hair instead of Courtney May's, but it could have been anyone's. Ruby and Felix were in cahoots. As for why, they were both advocates of wealth redistribution. A noble effort, but once they controlled the family fortune, they became just as greedy as the worst members of my family. The money corrupted them. They were so eager to personally wield the wealth for their own cause that they sabotaged any other claims.
Like Beatrice's story, because Courtney claims that their story was first, but the 5Ps and Ruby twisted their story and came out with it first to make claim. Yeah, he is a definite nope.
That finally brings us to Anonymom, aka Beatrice Watts. Her tales of guys' parties and payoffs were true. She even approached Ruby before 5Ps was on news time. Ruby used Beatrice's truths to make Felix's lies feel real, then ruined the DNA test so that Beatrice looked phony in the public court of opinion. I feel worst for her in all of this.
Also, she is the definite yes. I did put her down as yes, but also because I think of the flavor, the bee flavor.
While Ruby and Felix stole the show, there were some other potential new family members as well. Miracle Roottrie was less of an open and shut case.
Oh yeah, I forgot about his line of infidelity.
That said, it's very likely he had a son with Mary Beth Clementine.
Yeah, because the oldest one was adopted. She's all about adoption, so she probably adopted him, and then they came, and this would perfectly add up.
Not Stuart. Mary Beth adopted him before she ever set foot in Butler County.
I literally just said that seconds ago or minutes ago.
That leaves Mark. The timeline fits. He showed up about 9 months after Mary Beth visited Miracle, and the basket baby story is a bit too convenient. If that's not enough on its own, he was also bailed out by the sister of Edith Roottree, Miracle Jr.'s wife, after she changed her name to win that silly contest.
Oh!
Our best guess is that Mark was told by his mother whose son he was, and used that fact to put some pressure on Miracle Jr. We have no real proof of that, but nothing else really makes sense for why they'd be connected in that way.
Okay, yep, he's a no, and he is a yes. Oh, so they used his grown-up picture, but I locked in as his kid picture. Okay. I don't know, have I been, like, fully correct, or have I made a mistake? And I wish they can tell, like, I know that's confirming, like, this is a no, this is, like, they're showing me, like, the correct answers, but I feel like at the same time, it should also show if I got it right or if I got it wrong.
Elias's affair was the most ambiguous.
Oh, I forgot about him. Well, because Guy Hudson's tree of infidelity or scandal has been the most messiest. My brain just can't. You know what? I'm gonna keep quiet and I'm just gonna let her keep talking.
Gwyneth was able to coerce Elias to do things he wouldn't have otherwise done, like pressure to include me in the family. My son even mentioned them arguing about someone named Beth.
Oh yeah, and I said something about maybe because Gwyneth has a lisp. She meant Bess, right?
Combined with Gwyneth's lisp, it's possible the name was actually Bess.
Knew it.
Unfortunately, all we know about Bess Williams is that she wrote his book and died not long after, leaving her only son an orphan.
Yeah, but she didn't marry anyone, so it could be a possible yes. Like maybe they were scandalous and she was pregnant when she wrote the book. And then or maybe she was already pregnant and then she had his kid. I don't know.
The timeline fits with Wildcat, but there's no record if she had any other relationship. Honestly, I wouldn't say we had enough evidence either way.
I know that evidence was like not strong, like to confirm or to deny.
I wouldn't be surprised if Elias cheated. Of course, I'm a bit biased. Regardless, we haven't gotten in touch with any of the Williams clan yet. That means we haven't been able to do a DNA test. As Clark mentioned, from here on out, all of our DNA tests will be in person for both parties.
Yeah, to make sure there's no sketchiness. I did leave him as a question mark, so I feel like I did get this one right. Yeah, he's the confusing one. It's like, is he actually a Rootree? Is he not a Rootree? He's a maybe Rootree.
Lastly, we have a bit of a curveball. Ron Roottree isn't related to us by blood. Gwyn was definitely pregnant, so it's likely Robbie is.
Yeah, because you mentioned in the previous game that even though, like, Ron tried to get Robbie off the Clanton Trust, Robbie was a legitimate, like, Rootree by blood or something.
When Ron and Robbie went to visit their mother at the end of her life, something changed. Additionally, there have been a few rumors circling around Ron. RR Productions canceled the Guys Like Us remake due to the director's illness.
Yeah, and then I think I went on something, and then I had to check the parents, and they were both in good health. So then, like, Ron sounded like he was adopted.
At the same time, Ron's wife Penelope began doing benefits for Huntington's disease, stating that she had become familiar with it. Huntington's is the same disease that Gwyn's former co-star Leslie Florence had. It's passed from parent to child. It can't skip a generation.
Oh, so yeah, Leslie had to be a blonde because... And Leslie had to be the actual mother to Ron.
Because Gwyn and Wild Bill didn't have Huntington's, and Ron seems to, it's impossible Gwyn was his mother. I recently confirmed all this with Ron.
Yeah, because sudden severe case of pneumonia, but before that she had apparently been in relatively good health, and then Wild Bill, he is still around, but in his 70s, he's still in Paris, but he is in perfectly fine health.
At the end of her life, Gwyn told Ron the story. Leslie and Bill had an affair the same year Leslie learned she had Huntington's. Leslie got pregnant.
Yeah, including one with another actress.
Leslie wasn't likely to survive to see her child grow up. And even if she did, she didn't want to be a burden. She begged Gwyn and Wild Bill to adopt her child.
And Gwyn happily accepted to adopt her child.
Gwyn did. Mere weeks after she found out she was having her own son, she also took in Ron. Wild Bill was a problem. Unreliable and a serial adulterer. Gwyn divorced him and never saw him again.
That's pretty good of her. Like, I know, single mother is probably hard, but she did the best, so I support and root for her. Considering, ironically, she is also Roottrees. So root the Roottrees.
Gwyn had already told Starlet she was pregnant, so it never really made waves when people saw her with a child in Paris. There was gossip during her divorce when she was discovered to be pregnant again. In actuality, it was the final months of her only pregnancy. To lay low, she stayed in Paris long enough that even her own family never had reason to question the timeline.
Smart! She even told us she might come home next week so we can meet her kids.
It's one heck of a story, and frankly, nobody could be expected to piece the timeline together. Not with what few mentions of Gwyn's past have survived. But the Huntingtons itself? That's proof.
Alright, that now covers the original Roottrees, or so-called Roottree here.
Ron suing Robbie to remove him from the Clancid Trust was a huge moment in my story, and a major catalyst for this entire investigation.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of funny, though, because Ron is not an actual Roottree, so he was trying to get the Clancid Trust for himself. He was a bit greedy, too. But also the way Ron reacted to become the 6th president of the company as well.
Finding out that it's been pretty much backwards this whole time has been a bit surreal. So that's where we're at. Looking over the information you sent us was invaluable.
What do you mean invaluable?
You got everything absolutely correct.
Really? I did? Most of them I would probably guess. But sweet! Are you saying I got everything right? 100%? Oh my goodness! I thought I would get a few wrong. I would never have assumed to get everything 100% right.
Why did we even bother hiring a team? You figured it all out solo.
Not solo. I had my rubber ducky to help me.
All this information, this entire story, it's a lot, in more ways than one. Some of it has the potential to destroy marriages and ruin relationships.
It's already ruined, lady.
We're handling it all very, very carefully, but we couldn't have gotten here without you. And with that, I guess our tale has finally, truly come to an end. What a strange one it was. No words can express how grateful I am to you for untangling this mess. Honestly, I've had enough of my family's eccentricities and scandals for one lifetime. I imagine you have as well. And if not, well, there's always Elias's and Gwyneth's brothers and sisters.
Wait, are you hinting that there could be more, but you want to trail outside of the Roottrees? Oh, and this is the end. You know what? I'm now, like, if they do plan to make another, like, a third game of this, I'm sold.